So today I'm going to replace the starter motor on my 1975 Honda CB750 single overhead cam, period. As you can see, I have a new to me motor. Some gentleman from the forum from North Carolina was nice enough to send me this for 20 bucks. It works really well. And my starter motor doesn't work at all. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the starter motor cover, and I also have to remove the cam chain tensioner. To get to the third bolt on the cam chain tensioner, you need to lift up the oil pressure switch cover in order to get to it. Here's the cam chain tensioner now that it's off, and you can see I didn't have to remove the oil pressure switch itself. I just had to loosen it just to get to that third bolt. Now's the time to loosen the adjustment bolt on the cam chain tensioner and just make sure that it works properly. The reason why you can do this is when you put it on, you're going to have to put it on properly anyway. So now you can see the cam chain tensioner is off, and this is going to be free to be removed soon. You just have to remove the two bolts that hold it in, there and there. Okay, so the two bolts are out, and so now you have to realize the wire is coming out of here, so you have to remove your sprocket cover off of the back. So here's the wire, and you just pretty much have to get it out like this, and you can see that it just runs straight to the starter solenoid, the front side. So we need to disconnect it here from the starter solenoid and then pull the wire to here, because ultimately we're going to have to pull it out this way. So now the wire to the starter solenoid is free, and we need to push this back to free it out of the place where the gear in here is engaging the starter assembly. So a little bit of tapping with a mallet, and see now this is pretty much free, and if we can lift it out the back, we can remove it. Okay. Let me use two hands. I'll be right back. Okay, I wrestled it out, and you can see the wire just needs to be pulled through, and again I need to use two hands. Now here's the new starter motor, and all I did was get it started through here, and I'm going to pull that wire through, and then I'm going to seat the new starter motor back down into this enclosure and wiggle it back into position. So now the new starter motor is in, and I've got to work it until this point is flush with this. Then I know the gear is engaging. And of course I might have some tooth collision, so I'm going to have to really wiggle it and possibly get my finger in there and maybe turn it a little until I coincidentally get the teeth to mesh, and then I can push it home. Okay, so I couldn't get the motor gear to engage, so that makes me have to remove the stator cover, because I need to get the gear here engaged with the starter main gear. So a little extra step, but I'm going to remove my stator cover, as I've done 25 times, and no big deal there. Okay, so I've removed the stator cover, as you can see, and here are the gears that fit in here, and it goes fine-toothed, large-toothed, the flat washer, and it goes from there. The dowel then goes to here. So I need to push the starter motor home until the starter motor bolt holes back here line up and I can bolt this thing in. So I'm gonna keep working this until I get it to come through and be well seated. Then I'm gonna bolt it in, and then I'm gonna work back here. Okay, that's driven home because now the starter motor bolts line up, and I'm gonna tighten these decently tight, and that'll fix this in place. Now I'm going to re-thread the wire back up into the side panel, up and over the fuse box, and reattach it to the solenoid, and that way at least I can give it a whirl and make sure it's working properly. Okay, so I got her all up. Nice. I got me a working starter motor. Okay, I got the starter gearing back, and as you can see, it's just on the dowel. That meshes with that, that meshes with that. This goes on here, and then you got to put the stator cover back on and get the other end of the dowel to go in here, and just make sure you don't end up with a leak right here at the wires. That's a big problem sometimes. So we're almost all put back together, but I just want to show you that this is a noise I haven't heard in a long time. That is nice. Okay, it's time to put the cam chain tensioner back on. Now, the most important thing about the cam chain tensioner is you cannot put it back on unless the engine is sitting at 15 degrees past top dead center on compression on cylinder number 1. So I have another video about adjusting the cam chain tensioner, and putting it back on is the exact same technique. So I'm going to go ahead and get this bike at 15 degrees past top dead center on compression using the technique I showed in a previous video. Okay, we've set the engine to 15 degrees past top dead center compression on cylinder 1, and now it's time to put the cam chain tensioner back on. So we are going to line it up, and see it's under compression. And then we're just going to put the 3 bolts back on, and then we're going to tighten the set bolt because that'll be the point where you want to set it, because the engine is in the right spot. I wouldn't set the set bolt first because you want the spring to be pressing against the cam chain when it's tightened. Okay, cam chain tensioner's back on, and it's done with the engine in the right position. Now I got to put the starter motor cover on and the sprocket cover on, and then we're done. All right, we're totally done, and we're going to start this baby up. And I got myself a new starter motor. No more kick starting.